News Takes Over Politics is at its last interview. We are interviewing CAMAL Pennington, who is running for House District 97. Again, I want to stress to you that House District covers Forest Park, Jones, Lake Aluma, Midwest City, Nakoma Park, Oklahoma City, and Spencer. You are running for House District 97.
Yes, ma'am.
Before I begin the official questions, tell me why you are running.
Well, I'm running because I believe that our community will be served best and be strongest when we have the leadership with the right kind of experience and with the right vision for really improving our community. And I feel like I have that. As somebody who is born and raised in this community and who has spent time working for Congress, who spent time working in politics, and who has spent time working in public policy, I think that I have a unique set of skills that can really be useful for our community. And then finally, we have to have a clear vision of where we want to go. I really believe that public schools are the key to really improving our community. I work for the American Federation of Teachers, and so every day I'm talking to teachers, I'm talking to parents, I'm talking to students about what they need. And so what I'm hearing is that we've got to have counselors, we got to have social workers, we got to have healthcare services in our school every day. Because frankly, a lot of our kids are not getting their needs met at home. And I really think that a strong school is the bedrock of any strong community that we're going to build. And we can do that right here in Northeast Oklahoma City.
Okay. I had some people that were following the Better Black News page submit some questions to the betterblacknews@gmail account. And our first question is from a Melissa Morgan. She says, what sets you apart from the other gentlemen that are running up against you?
Well, we are lucky in District 97 to have a lot of great and qualified people running. But I think what really sets me apart is political experience. I served as a page in the Capitol when I was in high school, served as an intern for Representative Shelton when he was first in the legislature and I was in high school, worked for Lieutenant Governor Jerry Askins, and then worked in Congress, worked in Washington, and worked on education and civil rights and criminal justice policy. And so I feel like the urgent needs of our community require somebody who can go right to the Capitol and go right to work for our needs. You know, if you've never written a bill, it's going to be a learning curve for you to go in there and learn that, and I've done that. You know, if you've never written an amendment, you've never advised somebody on how to vote, how do you expect to really serve the best interests of our community?
Okay. I didn't know that. That's interesting to know. Okay. Our next question is from Mr. Marcus Butler. He says, what strategies or legislative approaches do you plan to support or introduce that will improve gainful employment opportunities for young Black professionals?
So I love this question because, part of the challenge when you're running for office is that you have to look at the demographics of the voters, and you have to have a message that appeals to those voters. And as another young Black professional, a lot of us are not out there voting. And so it's not an issue that I get to talk about a lot, so I'm always excited to. But I really think that the key for improving Black employment is actually having the skilled labor force. If you want to draw employers to where we live, we have to demonstrate that we have the right kind of people that they want to employ in the first place. Okay. So it goes back to education. Okay. How do we get more kids to go into career tech fields, into other skilled labor fields? And so I want to increase those opportunities for those people. And then you also got to remember the Oklahoma's Promise Scholarship. We don't have as many African Americans that participate in that program so that they can get that access to a lot of money.
And you're speaking of OLAP, right? Because that's what paid for my school. That's how I have a degree today. So I forgot about OLAP, so I'm happy you brought that up.
Absolutely. And I was a Clara Luper Scholar at OCU. And so that was a full ride scholarship that a lot of my classmates from Northeast High School where I graduated, we all had full rides to go to OCU. So those kinds of opportunities are really going to be important for boosting employment. And then the other big issue is transportation. You've got the skilled labor force. How do we take them to those places where the jobs actually are? Right. And so we've really got to work on that in Northeast Oklahoma City and all across the district. Okay.
Now, being a Democrat, it's not a lot of us in the House, where a lot of this voting is going on. How are you going to be an influence amongst, Republicans, who are heavily involved with kind of making the decisions a little bit because they have the majority. So how are you, being a Democrat, going to help make an influence and make sure our voice, because you would be, a representative of our district, how are you going to make sure our voice is heard since you'll be speaking on our behalf?
Well, one of the things you learn when you work in politics is that it's always about relationships. And so my main focus in working with Republicans is trying to understand their perspective and make friends. Make friends with people. You know, if you make alliances with people and have real conversations and understand where they're coming from, they're more likely to go ahead and help you out when they get the opportunity. They're more likely to come your way when you need them because of that relationship. And so as somebody who has friends that are Republicans, who I have great arguments with often, but also great conversations with, I also understand where they're coming from. And a lot of it comes about the money. And so how do I describe the issues of my community in economic terms that my Republican friends can understand? Okay. And that's what I always try to do.
I love that. So, what are your views on private prisons and the overpopulation of prisons? I mean, that is an issue, and it's unfortunately affecting a lot of African Americans. So, what is your vision, or I guess I should say your opinion or approach to that?
Well, I think that private prisons are a huge problem because then you've got an economic driver to incentivize people to actually go to jail, which is not what we want. We absolutely need better alternative sentencing. You know, I'm sure you might be familiar with State Question 780 and State Question 781, which are big criminal justice reform initiatives, decriminalizing lots of the lower level drug possession. It's really important. And then making drug courts and some of the alternative placements more prominent in our communities.
And you know what drives me crazy is that you can go to jail longer for having weed, but if you raped a little girl, you have a lesser sentence. I feel like you get more time when it's drug related. And I hate to say it, but those drug cases are kind of in the African American community, and I don't know if it's a setup or what, but I feel like there's a problem there. So how do you think you could help with that problem?
So is what you're asking is about an incarceration that's more for these drug crimes just in general? Because a lot of that has to do with mandatory minimums.
Okay.
Because of
Enlighten me, honey. Tell me.
A lot of it has to do with mandatory minimums. So the federal guidelines say that, and state guidelines have said that for the amount of weed that you have, or for example, I'm sure you might be familiar with the difference between crack and powder cocaine and how that gets treated, and how there's a racial component to the differences in the way that those sentences are handed out. And so I think we've got to address that head on. But I'm always fascinated by we talk a lot about that issue of possession, and I'm fascinated by it because a lot of people think that legalization is really the key to ending that problem. And I just want to say I don't think it is. I think that we should get there eventually, but the big issue with that is it doesn't stop the economic need that's happening in a lot of our communities where people sell drugs. The bottom line is a lot of people in our community need quality employment. They need a quality education to get that employment. And I think you can't miss that component whenever you're talking about working on improving that issue. So it's really, really important.
Okay. So one of my last questions for you is, with this crazy stuff that's going on with the school systems and everything, what are your views if you were to be in House District 97? How do you think you could help with, this budget cut crisis and this public versus charter school debate? I mean, what is your take on the school system with that era?
Well, the charter debate is really interesting. And again, I work for AFT, so I work for teachers in Oklahoma City Public Schools. And so I don't have a general problem with the idea of having a great charter school if it's in its own building that they've built. But I do have an issue whenever you're talking about converting an existing public school into a charter, because frankly, charters have different flexibility than what public schools have. At a charter, you can set a firm class size and then deny having any more students that are in that class. You can you can demand that you're going to have longer hours for school. You can determine that you're going to get rid of students that you don't want or that are low performing, or retain students that are low performing. Those are things that public schools just don't have those choices. And so it's not really an apples to apples comparison for me when you're talking about charters and some of the challenges we have in public schools. I think for Northeast Oklahoma City in this current debate we're having, I'm more concerned with, even if you have the charter expansion, what are we going to do to raise up our existing schools? And you can't let go of the fact that we need parental commitment and a community-wide commitment. Right. It doesn't matter if your kid's already graduated. It doesn't matter if you don't even have any kids. We all have an obligation to the people of our community to really build it up.
That's true.
So public education is so crucial. So that's really what drives me.
Okay. So do you have anything else that you would like to say to your potential, voters that are watching this? Do you have anything else that you want to tell them to get them out there to vote for you?
Well, I just want to say that I love this community. This community made me. And so I owe for all the good that they've been able to do for me. And I want your support. I want your vote because I truly believe that we need leadership that has the right kind of experience and who can work across the aisle and who really believes in the best that's in us. And so I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you for sure and reach out to our voters.
Yes. Okay. Well, good luck, in your campaign, and I wish you the best.
Well, thank you.
Welcome. Hopefully, you have watched all 3 interviews and have a better understanding and can make a better informative decision when you go vote on June 28th for the primary elections. I'm Jillian Whitaker reporting for Better Black News, reminding you to be better.